Greetings and welcome into the Sports Shuffle. It is November 18th, 2022. I am flying Ryan Gilchrist along with.
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verlin here how about that Thursday night football? It was actually a good game, I think.
Yeah, good game. Had some intrigue, very interesting. A lot of weird stuff going on in that one. Um, we're in frigid Florida in the 60s as a high today. That is the big weather story. Nothing else going on anywhere else in the country. Definitely not 4+ feet of snow already in
Definitely
places.
nothing had to be relocated for week 11.
Did you see the pictures the Bills put out from their stadium today at
Boy,
2
yeah,
o'clock? That was 4 hours ago, and you couldn't tell where the field and the stands met and ended. The chairs looked like they had full snow people that were misshapen lumps, but they were like the height of people sitting in the chairs. So probably a good move by the NFL to move the Cleveland Buffalo game out of Orchard Park, New York, which is just outside of Buffalo, that has already gotten over 4 feet of snow. That game has been moved to Detroit. There were rumors that may happen when the Snowmageddon, as they're calling it, was being forecasted. So that
mhm.
is now moved to Detroit.
You
Detroit
must
is
have been
on the
watching
road.
you must have been watching the Weather Channel again.
Uh, I was, but that was not where I saw the term. Um, Anyways, Detroit is on the road at the Giants, so the stadium is empty. Of course, the Lions will play next Thursday because it is Thanksgiving, turkey, gobble, gobble, have the parade with Santa at the end, Macy's Day thing, and the dog show, I guess, for some people who hate their lives. Um, yeah, I don't understand why the dog show's up against NFL football. Still. Anyway, yeah, we have a game last night. We have some news from
Because the
everybody.
probably one of the most interesting sequences you have from the game, just showing how futile year is for Green Bay. Because all of a sudden, just when you think last week, hey, that there's a little bit of sliver of hope for Green Bay, they might have a shot, and then you have a sequence where even after doing 18 plays and the Green Bay Packers defense that has to be absolutely gassed after that point. And after they finally get Buffalo, I'm still thinking Buffalo.
Tennessee,
Yeah, that other team. When they
another
get
good AFC team.
yeah, well, when they finally get Tennessee to give it up, they give it right freaking back. So can you imagine? You're the defense. You're out there for 18 plays. Finally, the offense comes on. Then all of a sudden, they turn around and they're going, "You've got to be bleeping me!" They're back out there again, as you as you had other names that definitely contributed, but King Henry was definitely back, even though you did have, at least I remember, there were two distinct times that Green Bay just stopped him cold. I mean, because it's sort of like the biggest duh ever. It's like, oh, gee, let me guess, they're all lining up. Hmm, hmm, who who is Tannehill going to give the ball to? Might be Henry.
Yeah, Green Bay was selling out to stop the run, and they did a pretty good job stopping the ground game in general. Total for the team 32 carries, 88 yards for a 2.8 average. Derrick Henry, 28 of those for 87 of the yards, 3.1 average with a touchdown on the ground. Also, 2 for 2 passing with a 3-yard touchdown to Austin Hooper, was a receiving touchdown away from the trifecta that we saw from one Christian McCaffrey a few weeks ago. Derrick Henry did get 2 receptions, including a 42-yard screen pass, a total of 45 yards. So a very nice fantasy night for Derrick Henry to get your week started if you have him.
Two other definite fantasy relevant names from that game: Traylon Burks, who some people might have had stashed on their bench or plucked up the waiver wire, had
Yeah,
a
I picked him
career
up.
high in receiving yards by halftime, which could be a good sign that he might be used more often going forward. And then, of course, so you mentioned you had him at least on one team.
I picked him up this week. Traylon Burks, by the way, 7 catches, 111 yards on 8 targets, was the most targeted player for the Titans and had the most receptions, which is a good sign coming back from the injury.
And of course, even more than King Henry, the name of the game, Christian Watson does it again and again as a breakout performance in Week 10 with 3 touchdowns, followed up with another 2 touchdowns to kick off Week 11. He is definitely becoming a super stud all of a sudden out of nowhere because Aaron Rodgers has to have someone to throw to, right?
Yeah, Christian Watson, 4 receptions for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns on 6 targets. So to me, he's starting to become kind of Gabe Davis-esque, where when he hits, oh boy, you are going to be very, very happy with when he's in your lineup. But when he misses, you might be a little bit disappointed. So keep that in mind. He's becoming a flexible option, maybe a wide receiver 2 on some teams that are really desperate, but a little risky. He's only had 7 catches in the last 2 weeks, and 5 of them went for touchdown. That's not sustainable. So he'll have his good days, but he will also have the bad days to even them out. Ryan Tannehill, 22 of 27, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Pretty good fantasy night if you happen to play him. Who else had a good fantasy night? Austin Hooper at tight end, sitting on my
Do
bench in the league.
you buy him at all going forward?
Let's put it this way. I had Zach Ertz on a dynasty league. Zach Ertz is out for the season. On my bench, I had Austin Hooper, or I can get Foster Moreau for the Raiders off of waivers. I went and got Foster Moreau and put him directly in my lineup. That looks like a bad result now. 4 for 36 and 2 touchdowns was a nice fantasy night, but that's my belief in Austin Hooper. He was
what's up there? What are you doing? Did cough.
Yeah, he had only 4 targets in this game. Robert Woods and Treylon Burks, 15 of the 27 targets. That's going to be their big weapons there. Austin Hooper was third in the team with 4, so maybe it's something. Tight end's a minefield. You can't chase 2 touchdowns. You're chasing targets. 4 targets doesn't really inspire me here. Dontrell Hilliard got the 3rd passing reception touchdown for the Titans. Aaron Rodgers, 24 of 39, 227 yards for 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, nothing inspiring here. 12 for 40 for Jones, 6 for 13 for Dillon. No touchdowns either one. Randall Cobb actually led the way in receiving yardage. 73 yards on 6 catches. Aaron Jones, 6 catches for 20 yards. Allen Lazard, 5 for 57 with 11 targets. Aaron Jones had 7 targets. Cobb and Watson both with 6. So Watson, as we said, very good result. Tied for 3rd on the team in targets.
And I noticed
concerning.
And I noticed you started Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback in one of the 2 leagues. Were you satisfied? Do you think he could have done a little bit more?
I mean, Tennessee's got a soft passing game or passing defense. I was going up against Christian Watson, so that didn't really work out in my favor here. But 19.08, that was above the projection for Aaron Rodgers. Christian Watson's 21.1 in PPR was well above his 11.1 projection. So not upset with Aaron Rodgers. Again, this is a team where it was either Aaron Rodgers, Davis Mills. I do have Deshaun Watson waiting for his suspension to come off because I think he's going to be the best option I can have once we get towards the playoffs. But I'm not too upset with Aaron Rodgers' performance. 19.08 is one of his better on the season. That is standard scoring. You might have leagues where you get ridiculous points. For example, the Mega Bowl, 25.48 because of the way the scoring is there. Not a bad night. Allen Lazard, 8.2 in that scoring format, a little off his production. So I think if you played any of the well-known players not named Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon in this one, you were probably relatively happy. I mean, if you played Christian Watson, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, you got good numbers. Not great numbers from Cobb or Lazard, but you get great numbers from Watson. Rodgers was good. Tannehill was very good. Derrick Henry, you got what you were hoping for. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 1 passing, 1 receiving, plenty of yardage. It's a good night. So, all in all, a good fantasy night. It was a good competitive football night, which I don't know how the Packers were favored in this game. Packers were 3.5 point favorites, and that didn't make any sense to me. I know the Packers played well against Dallas. I know they are the Packers, and they were at home at Lambeau Field, but the Titans were a 6-3 team that was dominant. Remember, they started 0-2, so they've now won 7 of their last 8. I don't think they should be the underdog to a team like Green Bay.
Yeah, it's just you're listening to the game and just hearing the struggle because you had times where Aaron Rodgers was absolutely brilliant because there was that one play where all of a sudden Tennessee was trying the substitutions and then
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers he was like, okay, now boom, and he got a touchdown out, and that was like out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, Tennessee's probably like, WTF is going on? And so you still saw a little bit of the Aaron Rodgers that everybody knows, but then you had other plays that he just seemed to have an eternity of chances and time to make something happen, and would take a sack instead. And you're
Or he would
trying.
miss a wide open receiver. I mean, there was a fourth down play. He had Sammy Watkins wide open. And he overthrew him. I mean, maybe it's just that it was cold, the first real snow up there. I mean, they did
And
have flurries during the game. He's
his
got a bad thumb, so maybe it's just a product of those elements all coming together, and that he's 38 on a team that doesn't have the
yeah,
best wide receiver core, or
because
maybe it's just maybe a sign that Rodgers is declining.
yeah, the Titans were less than perfect. He had the one, I think it was a defensive player who sort of did a semi flop to get a timeout on the field, sort of a injury that maybe wasn't
You never know.
because even though then he said he was kind of limping off, so maybe it wasn't a
You
flop.
can also fake a limp, but
And then cough LeBron
not
James,
not accusing, just saying you could.
NBA, and then you even had the Titans who had to burn a timeout because Derrick Henry had to tie his shoe. So
Yeah. I, I don't really blame Derrick Henry for that because you have to have your shoes or else you can't do what you want to do. So, um, yeah, I thought it was a pretty good Thursday night game. I know at some point they mentioned 7-6 Thursday night. Oh, here we go again, but it's not like that this time. And they were right. This one was a little more competitive, a little more action throughout. I mean, the teams moved the ball pretty well, and all in all, again,
yeah,
fantasy wise, pretty good
Ma-
night. And
Mason Crosby, who's normally automatic, had a miss with an extra point, so you're kind of surprised with that.
yeah, so if you're in a league where you lose points for missed kicks by kickers, that's pretty unfortunate for you there.
But
So
compared to last week's game,
yeah,
so much heads and tails, much better.
yeah. So we'll look ahead here shortly to the Week 11 slate of games. Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, and Seattle all on bye. So keep that in mind. Now,
As I mentioned in the final thought last time, boy, wide receiver rankings are going to be fun this week.
well, this ought to help. Per the ESPN fantasy app, this is not an official report, but this is per the ESPN app. This is talking to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Expect to play Sunday versus Chiefs. That is a big, big help for the Los Angeles Chargers. Both of them coming back. That'll put Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter to depth roles. That is a Sunday night game for the second consecutive week for the Chargers, so you might have to risk it if you don't have a backup on Monday night or Sunday night. You might be in deep crap if they do not play, but it looks like they're going to be able to play. Some players already have been ruled out this week, starting with Jamar Chase of the Bengals out once again. Corey Davis of the Jets is out. Mark Ingram, not a big deal there. Tremaine Edmonds, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, all ruled out already. Mecole Hardman on the IR. Not a big surprise that Juju is out with that nasty concussion-looking hit. Matt Stafford has been cleared from the concussion protocol. He does not know if he was had a concussion. Yeah, I don't know how you and your head coaching staff doesn't know if you actually had a concussion or not, but Sean McVay said, I don't know if he had a concussion. He was in concussion protocol, and they don't know that
I
he had a
would think,
concussion or not.
given all the attention put on that issue in the NFL, you would lean in the way of, yeah, let's just go with he does and go forth with that assumption.
Yeah. Devontae Adams, questionable after being limited all week with an abdomen problem. I saw illness at one point, so maybe he's just got the runs. I don't know, but keep an eye on that. I believe that's an early game. Not sure offhand. Chargers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are officially questionable for Sunday's game, but again, they do lean. It looks like they're expecting to play. Gerald Everett and DeAndre Carter, though, are good to go. If they miss, they do have at least those two options as well. Keenan Allen says he's 100% ready to go. but we'll see. It's up to the training staff for that. Zeke Elliott expected to play on Sunday. That is a big addition back into the Dallas Cowboys offense. Cole Kmet, the tight end for the Bears, 4 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, has been removed from the injury report. He should be good to go. Justin Jefferson popped up with a toe injury yesterday. It is off the report today, so not a big deal there. Same kind of deal with DeAndre Hopkins. Popped on the report yesterday with a hamstring injury. Said it was a maintenance problem. Should be good to go for Sunday. N'Keal Harry for the Bears is out Sunday. Who cares on that one? He's not really relevant. Mark Andrews, full participant in practice on Friday.
Relevant.
Yes, definitely relevant. He and Gus Edwards officially questionable to play against the Panthers, as is Lamar Jackson, who had an illness. I believe Jackson and Andrews. Jackson, I did see, is expected to play. Andrews, I believe, is expected to play as well. Gus Edwards, a little more truly questionable. Jerry Jeudy, like I said, out already. Cliff Kingsbury said Corey Clement and Max Williams will be elevated from the practice squad, so that's a good news. If you had one Zach Ertz, you're getting the Cardinals have this weird thing. Someone goes down, someone else comes back. Ertz goes down, Max Williams comes back. They had Hollywood Brown go down, DeAndre Hopkins comes back, and Hollywood Brown still not ruled out for this week. Very possibly going to come back. Let's see what else we've got. Josh Allen, limited all week. No injury designation for the Bills when they take on the Browns in Detroit. He will play. That is a very good news for everybody like me who has a lot of Josh Allen, was freaking out because they wouldn't name a starter until 10 minutes before the game started.
That was like when you heard the quote, we're going to take this hour by hour. You just make a freaking
you take snowfall totals in Buffalo hour by hour, not your starting quarterback situation.
You take rainfall totals hour by hour.
Yeah. Kyler Murray progressing. They'll see how he feels over the next couple of days. The extra day is supposed to help. He is going to be questionable. Colt McCoy also questionable for Monday Night Football in Mexico City. Again, Lamar Jackson illness expected to play on Sunday. Jelani Woods out for the Colts on Sunday. We'll see about the health of Mo Alley-Cox, but it could be a Kylan Granson game once again. Juju is definitely not going to play this week. We've already gone through that one. David Njoku declares himself ready to play, so that means he's going to be questionable because he doesn't make the decision.
I think that's usually the coaching staff and medications. Yeah,
you don't want to hope for.
Anyways. Here's a good quotable from Saints quarterback Jameis Winston that's posted 24 minutes ago. Jameis Winston says, playing, quote, hurts my soul. I lost my job due to injury, and the policy always has been you don't lose your job due to injury, and that's what happened.
Again, the quote from Dennis Allen was, he's not healthy. He might not become healthy. This feels a lot like Kadarius Toney with the Giants, though, where they just don't want to play him. And they're going to say he was hurt. And then Kadarius Toney got traded to the Chiefs, and it was exposed that he wasn't actually hurt for a lot of that. But we will probably never know if Jameis Winston is truly still injured and working his way back. Maybe they're just concerned because it was 4 fractures in the spine if he goes down awkwardly. Healthy enough to be the backup, not healthy enough to be the starter. J.D. McKissic out for the Washington Commanders, so that should be good news for Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson going forward. Again, no P.J. Walker for the Panthers this week. It will be Baker Mayfield starting.
Well, start your Ravens if you got them.
Start your Ravens. And Njoku did practice for the second straight day. He declares himself good, but wait for the official word from the coaching staff. Wan'Dale Robinson trending in the right direction to play. Doesn't seem like a big deal. Daniel Bellinger for the Giants, however, still dealing with that eye injury. Will not be playing this week. Corey Davis out this week. Expected to be back next week with, that's the hope at the very least. Bills, no practice today. I don't know how big of a deal that is, but that is due to the 4 feet of snow and counting that has fallen in the Buffalo area. They did virtual everything today. And the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans was arrested for DUI.
I saw that
at 4:30 this morning back in Tennessee because he really enjoyed beating the Packers, apparently. I'm sure there'll be an investigation on whether there was alcohol in the plane or if he just got smashed in the airport parking lot. But Derrick Henry played well, so I guess he was celebrating that the Packers lost to the Titans and his team won.
Good way to donate money to the league.
Yeah, good way to get suspended and possibly fired. I mean, you've got a good offense. I would say there's the potential of a head coaching job down the road for the offensive coordinator for the Titans. You saw it with Matt LaFleur, and it can happen. But getting a DUI on a night you had a game or the morning following the game you coached in a different state that the game was in, it's not a good look. But yeah, that's the big news. Again, no Cooper Cup this week. He is on
That's when
IR
you would
for
definitely need
missed.
the Price is Right fail sound. Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Yeah. So again, remember players like Cooper Cup that are already out for the rest of the season for the most part. Cooper Cup may come back, but I doubt it with how the Rams are. All right. So we've got the last night's game we covered. We got the DUI covered. We've got the news and notes.
Shall we go to the 1 o'clock game? Since hallelujah, there are no early morning games this week. We have a normal schedule once again.
Yes, the international games in Europe are done. There is a game in Mexico City on Monday night, which we'll get to
no
in a
more
little bit.
London games. Yee-hoo!
That 3-game comeback I made last week, I gave right back to Joel. He was back up 5 games. Anyways, let's go to the picks. We'll start with Chicago and Atlanta for some reason. Chicago, Justin Fields has been the quarterback one the last couple of weeks. He is a must start pretty much unless you have Josh Allen or maybe Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you can start anybody else over him with any kind of confidence. No Khalil Herbert, also on IR, so David Montgomery against this Atlanta defense becomes a very, very good play. Cole Kmet, 4 touchdowns, 2 weeks. Worst case scenario, you take a shot on the guy if he's on your waivers. He's going to be better than most people not named Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, and possibly George Kittle for at least reliability, it seems like. If nothing else, he's a good lottery ticket. Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, probably flex considerations at best. Maybe not even that much. For the Falcons, Chicago's defense is really bad, so Marcus Mariota is a possible streaming option or in a super flex 2 quarterback league, probably a must start. Cordero Patterson, again, Chicago's defense really bad. You got to think last week he didn't lose a lot in the snap share. He just lost a lot of touches in that horrible weather game. He's coming back from the injury. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe it's trying to protect him. We don't know. I think you roll him out here against Chicago if you've got him, probably in that flex consideration as well. And for the pass catchers, I think you do not play Kyle Pitts. Do not play Drake London. And you ignore the pass catchers for the Falcons because, well, you don't have a lot of passing. But those are 2 options that you may be forced into with the bye weeks. Again, no Bucks, so no Godwin, no Evans, no Seattle, no Lockett or DK Metcalf, and no Miami Dolphins for Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Jaguars, Christian Kirk, all out this week. So you may be in a place where you have to play those. Chicago, I said I thought they might have playoff aspirations because they were playing so much better, and then they lost to the Lions and moved to last place in the NFC North. So that is apparently not true. The Falcons, though, do have playoff aspirations because the NFC South is very, very sorry. So who gets the win here? Atlanta needs it more than Chicago.
It's just a sort of case of you're looking at the Bears have allowed the second fewest yards receiving per game to tight ends in the season, which is probably why you said don't start them. Don't. The Falcons have allowed 25 points per game, which is 27th in the league. So I just got to think that the Bears are looking for a win, especially after that brutal 1-point loss to the Lions last week. Atlanta can prove to be tough, but I just think Chicago tends to have the better defense. Of course, paper has a better defense than Atlanta, so let's be real. But yeah, I know Chicago's the away team, but it's Atlanta, so I've got to pick Chicago.
Yeah, no AJ Terrell in the secondary has been really hurting that Atlanta defense. I have Chicago as well. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Defense need not apply in this one. But at the end of the day, I take the more dynamic quarterback in a matchup like this, and right now that has to be Justin Fields. I do think the Bears get this one done, but if they lose, it's going to be like a 38-35 type of final. So fantasy-wise, I think you've got a lot of options, but I think a lot of it's going to be on the ground, not necessarily through the air. All right, next up, Carolina and Baltimore. We've already said play your Ravens, so I'm pretty sure we both are going to go on Baltimore here because, well, it's Baker Mayfield, and that doesn't give a whole lot of confidence to anybody. But for Carolina, I think Deontay Foreman has at least put himself in that consideration. Baltimore's a much better defense than Atlanta, where he's had his 2 big games. He's at least in the conversation. DJ Moore, I don't know if you trust going back to Baker Mayfield. He was really good with PJ Walker, not so much with Baker Mayfield. So if you're going to play anybody from Carolina, I think it's D'Onta Foreman, end of list. For Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, definitely going to be in your lineup. If Gus Edwards does not play, Kenyon Drake, I believe, is a must start. If Gus Edwards does play, you're probably still going to lean Kenyon Drake this week. You got to think they're going to be safe with that hamstring injury with Gus Edwards, but it's not as much of a slam dunk play. And Gus Edwards could end up being a good option as well. In the passing game, it's Devin Duvernay, but I think if you're looking beyond Mark Andrews, you're probably in a desperation situation for the Baltimore Ravens. All of that being said, I already said, play your Ravens. You've said it. I'm on Baltimore. I'm pretty sure you are as well, but tell us why.
Yeah, definitely. It's very hard to have any faith in Baker Mayfield, and
Mayfield.
Mayfield
Is fine.
Yeah,
Baker will fail. He may fail. He will fail.
And in Carolina, just because I'm still trying to figure out how the bleep they beat the Bucks that 1 week as bad as they did. As interesting tweet from YZR_fantasy. Christian Watson has more TDs in the last 5 days than DJ Moore has in any season of his career. Wah. So, yeah, that are kind of rough, as the Panthers have allowed 24.3 points per game, which is 24th in the league. And bottom line on this game, I trust Jackson a heck of a lot more than may fail. So, hey, we may have coined a new nickname here. So, just he might have been very happy to get the heck out of where he was, but he is not having a good season at all in Carolina. Anything but distinguished.
Yeah, I think Baker may fail. I think he will fail. I think the Carolina Panthers fail. I'm going to take the Ravens. The Ravens, right now, the fifth highest Super Bowl odds still, as per the broadcast last night. Surprised me Miami wasn't in the top 5 there, but that's a different thing. Baltimore's a good team. They have started to get their act together. I think this is going to be a good coming out party for Lamar Jackson to reemerge as one of the best quarterbacks in football. They'll get Mark Andrews back, it looks like, and that's a big boost to this team. Then we move on to Buffalo and Cleveland in Detroit. The Lions say the emergency numbers are by the phone. Lock up when you leave and don't break any of the tables. That was a tweet from the Lions, so good job on the Lions. Cleveland going to Detroit to play Buffalo. I don't know if that makes it a road game, but Amari Cooper has not played well outside of Cleveland all season. For Cleveland, you're going to play Nick Chubb. You can run on Buffalo well enough, so you're going to play Nick Chubb. I mean, Dalvin Cook had one of the better weeks last week. That could be the end of the list. Amari Cooper, I think if you have him, you're going to play him, but on the road, he hasn't been good. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been decent in the last few
Amari
weeks.
Cooper was definitely a disappointment last week. Good boy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his home road splits, it is absurd. Honestly, I think he got the Baker Mayfield's Mayfail suite in Progressive Field in Cleveland. He's the one that should be in the Progressive commercials now, but he's not as marketable as the quarterback is. So, but yeah, the way he's playing, he loves Progressive Field in Cleveland and does not like plane trips. He must have a great mattress or whatever. His pregame meal at home is much better than one on the road. David Njoku, if he plays, is interesting, though, as well at the tight end position. For Buffalo, Josh Allen, definitely going to play. Stephon Diggs, definitely going to play. Gabe Davis is interesting, although Cleveland has a pretty good defense. We talked about it when we were talking about Tua last week. He had a quarterback rating 40 points higher than anybody else who had played Cleveland all year. It was in the low 90s. That being said,
they just did whatever they wanted to Cleveland. It was brutal last week for Miami and Cleveland.
But we saw Cleveland shut down Joe Burrow, and Cleveland has been good against quarterbacks. So Josh Allen probably going to have to get some rushing yards to maximize his totals, which is not a problem for him. But it could be a little lighter of a game on the receiving end. Dawson Knox, interesting tight end play. I don't know. Devin Singletary is good in games that they have to stay involved with the running game because it's a tighter game. I don't think this is going to be one of them. So, I think you play your pass catchers for Buffalo, Josh Allen, and Nick Chubb for the Browns, and that's about it. Buffalo has no shot of leading the division after this week, but with a loss, they could fall possibly into a tie for last place. Who gets the win?
Yeah, and just an absolutely crazy situation as everyone is lamenting the snow game of the century that could have been, that is now not going to take place, which for public safety and just general common sense and logistics is probably a pretty good thing, especially with all the video and the pictures coming out of Buffalo. We're seeing, as you were talking about the stadium, we're going, okay, where is exactly the stadium in these pictures? That just, you don't even want to think of what trying to drive through that crap is like. Just good God. So it's just a case of uh, I know the game has moved to Detroit. You've got all sorts of crazy comments. I think there was one person who was I saw on PFT that was going, "I've got $1,300 of Buffalo tickets. What do I do?" I'm like to myself, maybe call customer service, I guess. So it's just absolutely insane. As I see, we have a comment here from Mr. Zach.
Komet. We're gonna throw that on the screen. It's gonna be Cole Komet for me. Njoku with that ankle injury is too risky. Buffalo's got a much better defense. I'm gonna say Cole Komet against that Atlanta defense is a much more upside play.
And I know if you're talking Cleveland, I know that they can have a good run game, but I think they're still trying to figure out their passing game. And it's just, I think Buffalo and specifically Josh Allen, and he's the heartbeat of the team. When he wants to win bad, and I think the whole team sort of feels like that in general. And yeah, Watson ain't back yet, kids. And even when he is back, the one question that I tend to see is he's going to be back, but is he going to be good with how long he's been out from football? So I know Cleveland has a chance, but I got to go with Buffalo.
Yeah, Joel, I'm gonna hide you here for a second so I can share this quick little video from the Buffalo Bills. This is their stadium, people. Why are they not playing? Because you really, by the way, this up here is the upper deck. That is not the lower bowl. The lower bowl is way down here. So, all of this stuff up here, this is the 200 level. Where the mouse, you can see the mouse. That's the 200 level. The field and where the 100 level starts, you cannot see until you go down here. So, why is there no game in Buffalo? That's why. Joel will be popping up here in a second. But I saw that video off the Buffalo Bills Twitter, and I figured that one's a good one to show off why you don't deal with it. So that's actually worse than the pictures, and they are not done. So
I think it's like airports. If you call up about one of the flights leaving, they just like laugh at you on the phone.
yeah, I think half of them were canceled as of like 2:00, and most airlines are giving you like a free change your flight option, which is not uncommon for something like Southwest. But
Hi, the schedule is currently screwed. Call back next week.
yeah. Anyways, I'm going to take Buffalo as well. I do think coming off that loss to the Vikings, they're going to come back. No injury designation for Josh Allen, which is, I think, only a benefit. And maybe playing in Detroit, that crappy Lions defense just seeps into the locker rooms, and it's a higher scoring game, which would be more exciting for everybody involved.
Can a presence of a crappy Lions defense somehow possess both teams?
Let the spirit of the fail compel you. Anyways, we move on to speaking of the spirit of the fail, Washington going to Houston to play the Texans. Washington coming off that big win against Philadelphia will be starting Taylor Heineke. This could be an interesting week for a lot of players in this matchup because Houston is not a good team. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, Taylor Heineke, all at least in consideration to be played. I would say Terry McLaurin is a must play. He's been the best player on that team on the offensive side of the ball since Taylor Heineke took over. For Houston, Damian Pearson, pretty much end of list. Now, that being said, short week coming off a huge emotional divisional win, even going to a team like Houston, any given Sunday, things can happen. Is there an upset brewing here?
As you mentioned him, Terry McLaurin has definitely become Scary Terry. Again, very nice to see. Target share in 4 games with Taylor Heineke this season, 29.7 target share with Carson Wentz. 15.9, and a name to consider as a deep dive for the Texans if you really need help with the bye week. Nico Collins led the Texans in routes run and targets, 27%
Yeah.
target share for what it's worth. But just remember, it's Houston. I know you said it's any given Sunday. I know they're going on a road trip, but I still have to take the hot hand and the hot team, as I know Taylor Heineke has definitely looked human at times, but still way better than the David Mills experiment that's going on in Houston. That you just sort of question, when is it going to end? So I gotta go with the Commanders, the Turds, whatever you want to call them, just because you gotta think about calling them the Commanders, especially after they did that to the Eagles on Monday Night Football. So Washington all the way.
Yeah, Commanders are 5-5. They're going to a one-loss or one-win team, and I have them losing to the Texans. I'm going to take Houston. I just have this sneaking feeling Dameon Pierce is going to have a good game. I do think there's going to be a letdown. You went in hard against the Eagles. You saw the raw emotion out of Taylor Heineke multiple times. You saw that sideline come and erupt. They're not going to have that game again. You saw them struggle in the fourth quarter against Minnesota. You've seen them struggle at times, even with Taylor Heineke playing pretty well. And Houston does this really annoying thing in games where they just stay close. And eventually they're going to bite a team. And I think this is the week they find someone who is just a little bit flat, come out, surprise them, and get a win. This is probably a terrible pick, but I just have this weird feeling that Houston gets the job done.
Terrible pick of the day.
It's bold, but I think the Turds get flushed down in Houston. Anyways, next up, the team that Washington beat last week, the Philadelphia Eagles, going to Indianapolis to play the Colts. Colts 1-0 under Jeff Saturday. They did go back to Matt Ryan, and the offense looked a lot better. So for the Eagles, you're going to play Jalen Hurts. You're going to play Miles Sanders. You're going to play A.J. Brown. You're going to play Devontae Smith. You are not going to play Dallas Goedert because he is out for an extended period of time with a shoulder injury. And I don't think you go and worry about Stoll, the backup. I don't think you look that route. So don't worry about the tight end for Philadelphia. We'll find that out soon. Don't take the risk. Indianapolis, I don't think you can play Matt Ryan, but you have to play Jonathan Taylor. He is too good to not play, even if this is a tougher matchup. We saw last week, the Commanders made a commitment to run the ball. They didn't have a great average, but they did it, and they won the game. Saw the week before, Dameon Pierce had a great game against the Eagles and a loss for the Texans. It's tough to recommend anybody on the pass catcher side for Indianapolis. Michael Pittman's the big name, but Paris Campbell has actually been the best receiver with Matt Ryan on the field. I don't know if you can count on any of them. Kylan Granson is a tight end dart throw this week, but I think if you have Pittman, you probably picked him up in the draft because you wanted to play him week to week. You might be stuck playing him, especially with the 7 big names on bye this week. Philadelphia coming off their first loss of the season. Indianapolis looked a lot better against the Las Vegas Raiders, all things considered, last week in Jeff Saturday's debut. So who gets it done?
Yeah, because I know that everybody on the Indianapolis Colts are riding high after the 1-0 win after the new coach, who I saw that he actually had to give up his fantasy team to Eric Decker. You know, had to be cool. You know, oh, who was the last person in the team that you're taking over for right now? Oh, yeah, they're a head coach in the NFL. You know, that has to be a little bit of a status symbol there. But you mentioned him, Paris Campbell. PPR finishes last 3 games with Matt Ryan, WR10, WR5, WR11, so might be a deep dive. But I really tend to think that the Eagles are chomping for a win, especially after that heartbreaking loss. They have to be pissed. They have to be wanting a win more than absolutely anything right now. And the Colts are going to be their cheesesteak sub right now. And the one question is how much not having Dallas Goedert will hamper Hurts. We shall see, but I'm still picking Philly, and I think Jeff Saturday's elation and euphoria felt last week is going to come to a running thud as they run into the Philadelphia Eagles. And yeah, that's what happens when you actually face, a decent team. So I'm picking the Eagles.
Yeah, most people in the right mind would pick the Philadelphia Eagles here, but Bunny, Ducky, Screwdriver, Orange, Grape, Soda. I'm going to take the Colts because I'm clearly not in my right mind. I picked Houston. I'm going to take the Colts here. I
We,
think they're going to really ride Jonathan Taylor. I think he had a smart mouth comment to say, so I'll let you do it before I keep going.
I proposed before the Sports Shuffle sent it to for a second nickname for Ryan, along with Flying Ryan, to call Ryan Contrarian Ryan.
In my defense, I put mine in before we start this, and I don't change them. So, I'm taking Indianapolis. I think Jonathan Taylor's breakout last week is something they are going to sustain. You saw the blueprint against Houston, how to beat Philadelphia. You ground and pound, and you stay committed to the run. Houston does not have the weaponry in the passing game to supplement the running game. You saw last week with Washington, they ground and pound, but they have Terry McLaurin on the outside. They have a few other players that can get the job done. Indianapolis does have Paris Campbell. They do have Michael Pittman. They have two pretty decent wide receivers, and Kylan Granson's been good. Now that Jonathan Taylor is the really only running back, he's also getting the passing down work, which that's only going to open him up. I think Indianapolis is going to believe in Jeff Saturday. I think he's a good leader of men. And that's a big deal. That's all the head coach really is. I mean, he's not the strategic mastermind behind the offense and the defense. He's just the guy who gets everybody going. So I don't love it, but I'm taking the Colts. I think the Eagles have been exposed. I think they're a little bit of a fraudulent team. Beat the Cowboys when they played with Cooper Rush at quarterback. They struggled against Washington the first time in a win and then lost to them. They beat Houston. They beat Jacksonville. They beat Detroit. Maybe I'm just not believing in Philadelphia the way I should, but I kind of feel like Philadelphia has a few games coming up where they play Tennessee, they play the Colts, they play the Packers, who have looked better of late, that they might come back to earth a little bit. And I think this is going to be the one where we go, is there a problem with Philadelphia or is Washington a blip? I think we're going to come out of this going, maybe Philadelphia is not what we thought they were, or some people thought they were. I know some people that say they're outright frauds. Next up, this is a very interesting situation here. The New York Jets go to the New England Patriots and play in Foxborough this week. With a win, the New York Jets are tied with the Dolphins for first place, possibly tied with the Bills, depending on the result of that game, and have the tiebreaker over both. So they would be in first place in the division. With a loss to New England, they would then not have the tiebreaker against New England and be last place in the AFC East. Every team is above 500 as of right now. With the Patriots win, every team is going to be 6-4, 2 games above 500 or better. The Jets, though, still no Breece Hall. He's out for the rest of the season. Good New England Patriots defense. I think this is going to be a game fantasy-wise to key in on those defense and kicker options. We don't talk about kickers much, but this might be a good game for it. As far as the offensive weapons, Michael Carter is interesting. I don't know if you trust him against that Patriots defense, but he has been good in release of Breece Hall. Of course, James Robinson is there, but I think Carter is the one. I don't trust Zach Wilson. Garrett Wilson on the outside, though, has had 2 very good games of late, so maybe he is a flex consideration-worthy player. For the Patriots, no Mac Jones. Probably nobody in the receiving game not named Jacoby Myers even in consideration. But in the backfield, Ramondre Stevenson has become pretty much, you got to start him kind of option. So I think Ramondre is about it for New England. It is a must start. Again, defense and kickers heavy in this game. Also, keep an eye. This is in that New England, Northeast, Buffalo region. There could be some weather. There could be some wind. There could be some snow. So it could also tamp down those offensive numbers. We saw the game in Buffalo last year where 3 passing attempts for one Mac Jones beating the Bills. This is a big game for both teams. New England, if with a loss, is going to be 2 games behind everybody else in the division. We already mentioned the Jets' outcome. First to last, literally, by the outcome of this game. Who gets the win?
As you're talking, of course, New England is 25th in the league in yards passing per game and 17th in yards rushing. Or you already mentioned Ramondre Stevenson, who has double-digit carries in each of his last 7 games, and he's only had less than 5 targets during that span. His backup, Damian Harris, has missed some time this season. That being said, the last game, which came against the Jets in late October, Harris had 11 carries to Stevenson's 16. And with the Jets, they have a boatload of injuries on their O-line. Bottom line, that has to take their toll. So I tend to think even if it's going to be a close game with the you have the Patriots -3 in this game as definite favorites. I know the Jets have definitely been surprising, but I've got to go with a home team in this case and pick the Pats, who have definitely been, by and large, looking a little bit better.
Yeah, New England has looked like the part, at least defensively, of the old school New England teams. That offense still has a lot to be desired, but Ramondre Stevenson looks really good. That's going to open up some of the passing options. I expect this to be a 13-10 style of game, no matter what. New England, the home team, gets that 3-point home favorite bump, and that I think is a pretty good line. I'm going to take New England, like I said, 13-10. So I'm saying it's going to be a push on the over-under, on the
Yeah,
plus minus.
opening game total is 38-5, so it's not exactly lighting it up.
Yeah. Then you add the weather, then you add the fact that, neither of these quarterbacks is really great. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think this puts the Jets in last place at 6-4 and probably still the 7th seed in the AFC when it's all said and done. All right, now we go to two teams, 3-win teams that are probably not going to make the playoffs, but the Saints, because the NFC South is what it is, still around. The Los Angeles Rams go to New Orleans to play the Saints. The Rams going to get Matthew Stafford back, but no Cooper Kupp, and that is a big, big loss. Now, maybe this is going to be like Kansas City. They lose Tyreek Hill. They have to spread the ball around, and that offense looks pretty dang good, even without your number one option. So maybe Ben Skoranek, maybe Van Jefferson, maybe Allen Robinson and Tyler Higbee all can pitch in, and it makes this a more dynamic team. Maybe it opens up the running game somehow. Maybe.
So call me maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That being said, I think the only one on there you're really confident in playing is going to be Tyler Higbee. Higbee's been very good with Matt Stafford. He's going to get good targets at tight end. It's a weaker position. Yes, you could play Matt Stafford. Yes, you could play Allen Robinson, but why would you want to put yourself through that level of torture, frankly? And the running game for the Rams has been non-existent, would be, I think, too nice. I don't know if they have a 100-yard rusher.
How about virtually
for the
visible?
Season. I don't know, and I'm going to look when Joel's talking. I don't know if the Rams have a single rusher that's got 100 yards on the ground all year. I'm going to say one of them does, but none of them hit 150 or 200. But it wouldn't surprise me if I looked and go, they don't have a rusher with over 100 yards all season. They've been that bad. I could be wrong. They could have like 400 or 500 yards, but they've been atrocious. For the Saints, Alvin Kamara, not atrocious. He's going to be in your lineup even against a good New Orleans or LA Rams defense. Chris Olave is a elite receiver. If you look at advanced metrics, he is one of the best receivers in football right now, but he's tied to Andy Dalton, which you're probably at least going to consider Chris Olave, but it is tough to play him while he's with Andy Dalton. He's going to have his boom bust weeks, but until they get a good quarterback, which probably won't be until 2023, he is not going to be a consistent starting wide receiver 2 level option. He's probably going to be that flex line for most people. And Juwan Johnson has been really good in tight end the last couple of weeks. He's been in double-digit points, got a touchdown each of those weeks. Taysom Hill's been nothing, so maybe Juwan Johnson with the tight end pool being somewhat dry. Maybe you throw him into the mix. So the Saints have to win this game. The Bucs on bye. They lose. They're 2.5 games out. Already lost to the Bucs with 6 to go. That's when it starts to get real out of reach, even in a bad division. The Bucs are starting to look pretty good. The Rams, they're done. Like the Rams are just done. They lose Cooper Kupp. You got to think they're done. So much bigger game for the Saints. But all of that being said, neither one of these teams instills a lot of fear or belief. So who finds a way to win this one?
Yeah, as I know, with as much questions and enigmas that the New Orleans Saints have about them, neither team really tends to give you confidence. But the Rams have fallen so far that I think the hapless Saints and even the oof Dalton should be able enough to eke out a win in what is going to be a very ugly game. Hopefully, Alvin Kamara does better this week, but yeah, either one of these teams, you have to hold your nose and you're going, yeah. But I've got to pick the Saints in this one. I think that they just can eke out just a little bit more than the Rams, who have definitely lost their way.
All right, so, all right, for the season. Cooper Kupp is 3rd in rushing for the Rams with 52 yards. They do have 2 rushers that have crossed over 100. Darrell Henderson with 274 on 68 carries, and Cam Akers worth 176. So the running game not existent. 613 total yards. That is, I believe, the worst in football. I will have to try and find that out here shortly. All of that being said, I'm definitely going to be taking the New Orleans Saints in this one just because, as I just mentioned, there's no running game. A team that is one-dimensional and loses their best receiver. That is tough. The Rams right now, worst rushing team in the league by average and total yards, 68.1 a game and 613 total yards. So, yeah, nothing there. The Saints are middle of the pack with over 1,200 yards rushing so far. I think losing Cooper Kupp is going to be like losing a piece of the soul of this team. Yes, like I said, maybe it's like Tyreek Hill. I don't buy it, but maybe it's like Tyreek Hill, even the Chiefs, and everybody rallies together and makes it a better situation overall. They also don't have a Travis Kelce in there to stabilize things. So I think it's going to be the Saints. I don't think it's going to be a good season the rest of the way for the Rams. They have a first place schedule, so I'm going to take the Saints to stay alive in that very sad NFC South.
Staying alive.
All right, now we go to Detroit, going to the Giants to play a 7-2 team. The Detroit Lions have won 2 games in a row. They are, technically speaking, 3-6, and I believe that puts them in second place in the NFC North. I got to look because the Packers haven't had their bye. They've actually got 2 more games played. That being said, they're playing a team that is 7-2 that has been very, very dominant. So for the Detroit Lions, who are still percentage points behind the Packers at 4-7, they are 3-6. So still percentage points behind the Packers, still third place in the NFC North. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be in your lineup. Jamal Williams in your lineup. That's probably end of list for the Lions. For the Giants, it's going to be Saquon Barkley, and I think you can play Sterling Shepard in this one. I think you could play Wan'Dale Robinson if he's active. And then, I mean, I mentioned Tanner Hudson was in a fantasy lineup of mine last week, but Detroit's really bad on defense. He might be a sneaky, like, DFS low-cost play in a grand, GPP big money pool. He could be a sneaky, maybe gets a touchdown and does really well and saves you money to go get someone else better. So, yeah, Detroit starting to play a little bit better, but they're playing the Giants. This is a step up in competition. Does Detroit make it 3 in a row?
As you mentioned him, so Amon-Ra St. Brown's last 12 healthy games, 22.5 PPR points per game, would be a WR4 over Tyreek Hill, currently 22.2 fantasy points per game, has seen at least 24% of the targets with over 9+ total targets in every game this span. That being said, if I may borrow your phrase, I would definitely be amazed with Detroit getting another win streak as their main weapon, DeAndre Swift, is still not back to 100%. Now, maybe if he was, I might be a little bit more inclined to say, okay, maybe they can go to the Big Apple and take a bite out of the Big Apple and take a bite out of the G-Men, but with Swift still not being fully utilized to his effectiveness, with him still being hurt, and you still have the coaching staff going, you got to know what the snaps count will be for him this week, and he constantly seems to be limited. I got to go G-Men and pick the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to go Giants as well. I think this is one of the last easy games the Giants have. I know they got a couple against the Cowboys coming up, or the Eagles coming up, and the Washington team that's been suddenly very good. So they've got a tough stretch coming. If they want to make the playoffs, they're in a good position, but they do have to win this game and then seal a couple the rest of the way.
It's weird. I mentioned it before. Whatever was vexing the NFC least last year has, for some reason, shifted to the NFC South now this year.
Yeah, NFC South, NFC West just can't get it going this year. Now we move to the AFC West. Las Vegas Raiders going to Denver to play the Broncos. Worst scoring offense in Denver with the best scoring defense in Denver. Las Vegas, they're just kind of there. I mean, not a whole lot of excitement. This is a tough one to play anybody from Vegas. Obviously, if you have Josh Jacobs, you might feel inclined. But remember, Denver really shut down Derrick Henry last week, and who went off last night and has
Hey, there's
been pretty good for a while. Then Devontae Adams is questionable on the outside with the abdomen and the stronger defense. So this could be a week to fade everybody from Vegas. I don't think you can bench Devontae Adams. I don't think you can bench Josh Jacobs in most scenarios. So you're probably stuck playing them. But there's not a lot of options on that Vegas side. Again, no Hunter Renfrow, no Darren Waller, both on IR for at least another 3 games. For Denver, they did beat Vegas early in the season, but that was before the Javonte Williams injury. That was before the Jerry Jeudy injury. They also have no KJ Hamler. So wide receiver depth, they don't have any. Kendall Hinton is their number 4. He's questionable for this game. He was the quarterback when they had the COVID game against the Saints, just to remind everybody that. So it's Courtland Sutton at the wide receiver spot. Greg Dulcich is probably their number 2 threat in the passing game. I don't know if you can really trust Melvin Gordon. He's probably the best option at running back, but that's not really great. And Russell Wilson has been, well, Russell Wilson this season, and that's not a compliment. So both of these teams, I think, have no shot at the playoffs. So this game really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But for fantasy and the contest we do, who gets to win?
Yes, this is just a definite game. You're going, oh, good God, who do I choose? It's Courtland Sutton in his last 3 games, 6 receptions, 50 receiving yards, 0 TDs. You mentioned, of course, Jeudy getting hurt on the first play, week 10, leading to Kendall Hinton playing 77 snaps, 43 of which came from the slot. But of course, he's questionable for this week. So if you picked him up, or if you had him thinking, ooh, you're rubbing your hands together like the guy behind the tree in the meme, yeah, then you're looking over the injury report. As I know it's hard picking Denver, but I think it's even harder picking Las Vegas just with their propensity to freaking lose and lose big. So I'm not exactly liking picking the Denver Broncos. I don't have a lot of faith. It will probably be one of my least confident picks, but I've got to pick the Broncos because you have one of the best quotes from Nathaniel Hackett probably in the weekend. His quote is, "Somebody's got to win this game." And more than anything else after that, I'm really praying for a tie in this one. I don't know what that would do to our pigskin pick'em, but yeah, because you even have, if I can do a quick sports shuffle extra here, is it's kind of funny how all of a sudden, because of course of the buyout, that of course Mark Davis said Josh McDaniels is coming back for next year. So wah for everyone saying, oh, well, who's going to be fired first, Hackett or McDaniels? Well, it's not going to be McDaniels. And then you have this from the Las Vegas Review Journal on Monday from Mark Davis, quote, "I like Josh. I think he's doing a fantastic job. That's why I hired him," Davis said. "We had an exhaustive search and found the person we believe is going to bring the Raiders to greatness." So, close quote. Can you believe? I think he's doing a fantastic job. And when we're talking about the loss was so bad, you had Derek Carr basically having overcome with emotion and basically having an outburst at the freaking press conference. That's when you know it's bad. And it's just, I mean, you had the Raiders loss to the Colts to fall to 2-7, 25-20. I mean, it was a bad, bad game. And here you have not only saying he's coming back next year, but he's doing a fantastic job. I'm going, this is a fantastic job.
Yeah, he looks like a ghoul with a crappy bowl cut, so I don't listen to what he has to say very often, but I disagree fully. He's not doing a good job. I don't like picking Denver either, so I'm going to pick Las Vegas. No confidence in this one. This would be a 1. This would be a 1 in the confidence pool, and with that being said, I'm going to take Vegas in this one, mostly because of how injured the Denver Broncos offense is going to be this weekend. I don't think they're going to get the job done. I think Vegas can put up 17 points, and that's really all it takes to put Denver in a really tough situation. I think Devontae Adams does play, and it wouldn't be surprised if they got a defensive touchdown or something to put this one out of reach for Vegas. So I'm going to take Vegas. I don't love it, but it's 2 bad teams. You know, either side can really win. All right, next up, Dallas goes to Minnesota. Dallas coming off the bad loss to Green Bay, losing, blowing a 14-point
That will be the
lead.
most viewed game on Sunday Ticket. Not
Vegas and Denver, or Dallas and Minnesota, because Dallas, Minnesota might get some eyes. But Dallas going to Minnesota after that tough loss. Minnesota coming off the emotional win over Buffalo. So two teams coming off of vastly different results last week. Dallas, Zeke Elliott coming back, so I think that diminishes your Tony Pollard shares, but I think him and Pollard both are playable. I think Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb could be very good plays this week as well, because Minnesota's defense is not spectacular, just kind of an average defense. Dalton Schultz has been very good as well. Michael Gallup on the injury report, or possibly on the injury report. He did leave last week's game. Probably not quite in your starting lineup. For Minnesota, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson locks in your lineup. Kirk Cousins, probably a streaming option, if not better. And Adam Thielen, probably not the best week. TJ Hawkinson, though, is a lock and load. You got to start him every week now that he's with Minnesota. Minnesota 8-1, battling with Philadelphia for that number 1 overall seed. They pretty much have the NFC North wrapped up already, given it is, only week 11. Things can happen. But Minnesota could really put this thing away pretty quickly if they win this week over Dallas. So who gets the win?
As you definitely mentioned him, Tony Pollard has started just 3 games in his NFL career. He's scored 24.8, 36.7, and 32 DraftKings points in them. Ezekiel Elliott has scored 24 DraftKings points in just 2 of his last 38 games. But of course, now that he's back, that will definitely change. And this game is, I think, pretty cut and dry with one significant fact. It's not 1 p.m., so I'm picking Dallas.
All right, Joel's picking Dallas. I was torn on this one because Minnesota coming off that a very emotional win, Dallas coming off a low. I thought maybe there was going to be a flip in the momentum. Maybe Minnesota doesn't come in 100%. But once you start thinking Dallas is going to do something, I seem to think they're going to lose. So I'm going to take Minnesota here. Once you believe in Dallas, they tend to let you down. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. Minnesota has the clutch it factor going on this year. They've come back from behind. They've won big games when they've looked out of it. I think they get the job done this week against Dallas. All right, next up, the last game in the late window, Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. The Bengals still no Jamar Chase, so T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd in your at least in your options for lineup. I think Higgins is in. Boyd probably closer to that flex consideration. Pittsburgh defense very good. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, they're going to be in your lineup, but you're probably going to have to temper your expectations here. For Pittsburgh, Najee Harris, I don't know if he's startable.
Ugh.
I just don't. I mean,
Ugh.
you're probably going to have to. I know a lot of people that have Najee Harris do not have teams they're happy with. You're probably going to have to start him. Deontay Johnson.
Him and be prepped for disappointment.
Deontay Johnson is overdue for a touchdown. He's one of the league leaders in targets. I think he's going to be a pretty good option this week. Kenny Pickett. No, maybe George Pickens, but this is probably going to be a thinner fantasy game, at least on the Pittsburgh side. We'll see about Cincinnati. I think somebody's going to go off. Could be T. Higgins, could be Joe Burrow, could be Joe Mixon, but I don't think all of them will in this one. Just too much defense. Probably a lower scoring game. There could be cold, snow, weather in the area still. Same thing as Buffalo. They're just a little further away. The weather's not going to be ideal, so who do you got here?
Kind of cut and dry as I looked at this one is Cincy is not the Saints, so get ready for a loss, Steelers. And even with all the possible weather in there, I think somehow Cincinnati finds a way to get her done.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati wins this game as well. I just think they're a better team than Pittsburgh. It's going to be a low-scoring game. Pittsburgh got the win in week 1 because the long snapper got hurt. Joe Burrow threw, it seemed like 117 picks that first game, and they lost in overtime. So Joe Burrow's going to play better this week. They're not going to have as much of that Super Bowl hangover, and I think Cincinnati gets the win. Then we go to Sunday Night Football. This one is interesting because, one, the Chargers back-to-back weeks on Sunday Night Football, not something you normally see.
Yeah, the Chargers have had 2 rough opponents in a row. The absolute brutal defense from San Francisco, and now you have the brutal offense and defense with Kansas City.
But when we break down this game, it gets interesting. Kansas City, their running game, I dropped Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a defense. They are bad at running the ball. Isaiah Pacheco has taken the lead role.
So you
but he's been
mean
bad.
you don't get any fantasy points for 4 snaps in the NFL?
No, you don't. Bench time does not help you in your fantasy lineup. Um, so you're not going to start anybody in the running game. Most likely, Pacheco is probably your only option if you wanted to go down that road. Wide receiver wise, no Juju. MVS is questionable. Mecole Hardman is on IR. Yeah, Kadarius Toney is still there, but they're a little bit thinner than you would think at wide receiver. Travis Kelce is going to be the focal point against this Chargers defense, and the Chargers defense has historically done pretty well when they have Derwin James against Travis Kelce. So offensively for the Chiefs, you're going to play your Mahomes, you're going to play your Kelce. That could be it this week. Kadarius Toney is an interesting streaming option though as well. For the Chargers, if they can get Keenan Allen back, they can get Mike Williams back. All of a sudden, this offense goes from injured and limited because it's DeAndre Carter and Josh Palmer to Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler at full strength in the backfield. Justin Herbert might look like Justin Herbert against a bad Chiefs defense. So while you might look at the surface and go Kansas City is 7-2, they're first place in the AFC. The Chargers are the Chargers. They tend to let players and fans down. This might not be as cut and dry as you would think going in. Chargers being the home team might be getting healthy, where Kansas City is getting worse with the health. Upset? No upset? What do you think?
I tend to think as no upset as I know Kansas City has some serious wide receivers issues when Kadarius Toney is all of a sudden being elevated to WR2 when normally that core is a lot more lethal. But I still think that Pat Mahomes can just somehow make it work, as Justin Herbert has dipped a full yard YPA from 6-3 from his first 2 seasons, 7.4. And this is a result of most of your passing offense going through a running back. You've had SF and KC, two brutal matchups for the Chargers, prime time, back to back. And that has to take their toll on a team. I know some teams tend to feed off of it. I'm not sure if the Chargers are feeding off of it or it's exhausting them more. And the other key question you have, you do have the injuries to the Kansas City Chiefs, but you also have the injuries ongoing, it seems, to the Chargers. And I think that will affect them more than the Chiefs. And the other question between the two quarterbacks is how much did Justin Herbert get his bell rung last week, and how much will that carry forward into this week? Will there be any effects from having that? It was a couple minutes. He came back for the second half, but still, he had to go to the blue tent, had to be evaluated. So I just tend to think that I know that Chargers have some fight in them. We definitely saw that last week, but just San Francisco was too much for him. And I think that I know Kansas City has a pretty weak defense as long as their offense doesn't tend to get struggling, which I know sometimes they have, because as we saw in the Titans game, that they won, but it wasn't exactly by a whole bunch that we're usually used to. So I tend to think it'll be kind of game where they can eke out a win against the Chargers. It'll be hard fought, but I still have to pick Kansas City.
Um, I believe both those wide receivers are going to come back for the Chargers, and that's going to make a huge difference offensively. You beat the Chargers by running the ball, and the Chiefs just do not have a good running game. Isaiah Pacheco, 16 for 82. Sure, it's a solid 4 yards a carry average, but did have that fumble. They struggled against Jacksonville to put them away last week. They struggled mightily against the Titans with Malik Willis at quarterback. And I think a Chargers team getting healthy, it's going to open up that running game. It's going to open up that screen game even more, having Mike Williams and Keenan Allen on the outside. Not a guarantee both of them play. I think they both will. I do see on here when they say they expect to play, they have to know something. If they're going to come out and say, "Oh, we expect to play," I feel like I'm good enough to go. I just think that offensive injury plague that has tortured the Chargers and now moved to Kansas City with 2 or 3. Because again, MVS dealing with an illness may not play also. So Kadarius Toney might be the best wide receiver on the team, and he's been there for 2.5 weeks. So I'm going to take the Chargers. I think this is Justin Herbert coming back to what you expected when you drafted Justin Herbert, and I think they get the job done. This is a team that tends to make weird, wild losses and weird, wild wins. I think this is a win. I'm going to take the Chargers. All right, last one after a week of heavy disagreement so far. San Francisco going to Arizona, not going to Arizona. They're going to Mexico City. The Cardinals are technically the home team here. For San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk, I think, has to be started at this point. He's been very good for a few weeks. Deebo Samuel looks like the number 2 option there, which is not great if you have him, but he's due for a breakout. Arizona's defense is someone you can throw against. In the backfield, you're going to play Christian McCaffrey. You can probably play Elijah Mitchell as well. You're going to play George Kittle, Arizona terrible against the tight end. And Jimmy Garoppolo is 10-2, well, throwing 0 touchdowns. I think he's going to be better than that, but probably not a fantasy option for most people. Arizona, we're still waiting to find out if Kyler Murray can play. He is trending in the right direction. I believe he's going to be good to go, but a Monday night start, you may not want to wait and find out the hard way that he is out. I know for me personally, I have put in Dak Prescott in Kyler Murray's place right now. Unless I get confirmation beforehand, Kyler Murray will play. It's probably going to stay that way, but San Francisco's got a very good defense, so it might just be worth benching him in general. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be in your lineup. James Conner probably should be in your lineup as well. We'll see about Rondale Moore's viability and Hollywood Brown's injury. If he comes back, it could muddy the waters for that wide receiver 2 position. I think Hollywood Brown will get it, but it will limit some of the opportunity for Rondale Moore if he is in the game. Max Williams going to be elevated. I don't think you play a tight end for Arizona. Arizona needs to keep winning to have any shot at the playoffs. San Francisco needs to keep winning just to catch up to Seattle. So who gets the job done?
Yeah, as you look at Arizona's recently losing to the Eagles, losing to the Seahawks, then winning to the Saints, which most teams can do, then losing to Minnesota, losing to the Seahawks, what they just won, and then winning to the Rams. So it's not exactly what you would call a slam dunk case that they can easily get by San Francisco. Crazier things have happened, but I tend to think it's prime time. It's Monday. I know you tend to have that whole reverse thing of the team that you don't really expect to win tend to win. I think that would be Arizona in this case, but I tend to have to go with San Francisco. They handled the Chargers. You saw how brutal that defense was, and they can do the exact same thing to Arizona. So I think it's going to be a hard fought game, but I think San Francisco is going to keep on winning.
Yeah, I think San Francisco takes this one as well. I just think they have too many weapons. They're going to outwork and outpace the Cardinals. Hopefully, not going to be a low scoring game. I think this has the potential of being a little bit of a shootout, especially if Kyler Murray does play. So yeah, San Francisco's defense is good, but I don't think they are just the lockdown. Nobody can score on them unit that people are thinking. Divisional matchups, they know each other well. I think Arizona's going to be fine, but I just don't think they quite get enough in the scoring department to win this one. So I'm going to take San Francisco as well. 5 differences this week. I'm down by 5. I don't expect all 5 to hit because I picked Houston, Indianapolis, and Las Vegas. But stranger things have happened. So we'll see how the picks go. We'll move on to final thoughts. And Joel, on you.
I'll start off with on Facebook they have this thing marking yourself safe when something bad happens, and they've taken that into a parody as somebody came up with from yesterday. Mark safe from wanting Taylor Swift tickets. As yeah, you might have heard Taylor Swift coming locally. A little bit of a demand for the tickets, but how about this poor person? I won't mention their name, but on Twitter they go. And this was from Seat Geek. Quote from the tweet: waited in line for Taylor Swift tickets for 8 hours today, and SeatGeek charged me 14 plus times for tickets I was never able to purchase. So now my bank accounts happened on multiple cards are frozen. I'm broke. It overdrafted my accounts, and I did not get the tickets. And we're talking like charges for $687.28, and lowest one was $559.28, and this was multiple and many. So just sort of sharing out there that you thought you had a bad day. This person probably beated you as wow. I mean, I know that I might consider doing something like that for maybe Billy Joel, but oof, when you see the prices for tickets and just the insanity of just with Ticketmaster and everything that's going on, as you've seen probably on social media, absolutely everywhere, just the outcry, and now Taylor Swift is pissed off at Ticketmaster. So just an absolutely insane situation. So I don't know if you would have considered ever wanting to go to the concert. Yeah, no. So just in case you thought that you had a bad day, I think that person probably topped just almost, because there are a couple other things I could possibly think of that happened recently. But yeah, that's a pretty bad, rough day, especially when you spend 8 hours waiting for tickets, you don't get them, and somehow now all of your accounts are frozen. Huge, humongous fail sound, as you'd sort of have to wonder how the bleep did that happen.
Um, I'll get to my final thought here in a second. I remember a few years ago, my wife wanted to go see Ed Sheeran, and it was similar where it was like $700 to sit in the back, the opposite end zone at Ray J to see him. And I said, I'm not spending that much money. I'll go buy you the CD. Um, the CD for the new tour is like 15, $16. Apple Music subscription is $10. And oh, by the way, I did just check on YouTube. There are multiple full concerts of Taylor Swift on YouTube available for free. Maybe have some ads, but for free. I get you wanted to go see her live, but
Ad blocker,
six
cough,
hundred
cough.
bucks? Are you kidding me? Well, I mean, I watch a lot of my stuff on Xbox. I don't have an ad blocker on there, but if you're on here, you could. But are you kidding me? No. I know a lot. I know people want to see Taylor Swift, and I know all the Swifties are so happy, and she's so. Don't you have better things to spend your money on in this economy? Like, come on. We're in a recession. Gas is $4 a gallon again, and the groceries are out of your mind. You're worried about Taylor Swift tickets? Okay, go. No. Um, for those of you who know or care or follow soccer, the World Cup starts on Sunday, which is a really bad day to start the World Cup because there's still football. I know it's the World Cup, and it's a big deal. But Qatar starts the tournament as the host. They are selling no alcohol in the stadium, which, frankly, I don't know how you can watch a soccer game without taking a nap or getting just blitzed drunk because I had
Yeah,
struggled to do it.
what was one of the most iconic images from the Bucks game in Germany with the huge ass, pints of steins
Yeah.
of beer that the
Yeah, the
fans had.
pitchers they were carrying back to their stands so they could sip it. So, one, no alcohol at the World Cup. Shame on Qatar. I know it's Islamic law and culture that's part of it. I don't care. USA kicks off on Monday against Wales. Looks like USA has a pretty good opportunity to go to at least the second round. They're in a group with England,
They're
Iran,
not
and
they're
Wales.
not
They should
they're not in the group of death, as the
the group
usually
of
is called.
death. Yeah. England, Iran, Wales, and the USA. England and USA. That'll be interesting. Iran and Wales should be no problem for the Americans. That should get them to the quarterfinals. Group of death. Um, Possibly Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, Korea in Group H. Probably Spain, Croatia, or Costa Rica. Sorry, Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, Japan is another tough one. But yeah, World Cup, for those of you who care, know, or interested, does start on Sunday and it goes through the next few weeks. Obviously, the whole Qatar getting the tournament was very sketchy, being done in the winter so the players wouldn't die. There were multiple people who died in the construction of these buildings and stadiums because it's the freaking desert. Um, and now no beer. So the World Cup hasn't even started and it's got a terrible, terrible track record.
That's
But
that's when you'd like to dedicate the Hank Williams, original Hank Williams, who did a song "There's a Tear in My Beer."
yeah, but the World Cup goes from November 20th until December 18th for the final. We'll see. That's a Sunday game, so it'll be overshadowed, but it's at 10 a.m., so it won't be overshadowed by the NFL because it'll be done before kickoff. So If you are inclined to watch the World Cup, it does start Sunday. USA plays on Monday, the 21st. You can check several websites, FIFA or ESPN, and get the rest of the schedule. But just a PSA, since we don't talk about soccer at all, it does start this week, and if you want to watch it, it's going to be available.
Yeah, for the price of a Taylor Swift ticket, you could get yourself a PS5
and then some. Resale tickets for Taylor Swift concerts are in the thousands upon thousands
God,
of dollars, right? Actually, let me go see.
why?
I don't know. I don't know why anybody wants to spend that much money on Taylor Swift tickets. It says the Ray J $49 and up. I have a feeling up means a lot more than $49.
Means
just
bend over. Here it comes to your wallet. That's what that means.
Something like that. So let's just pick. Let's pick this one in Houston. Say 2 tickets. I just want to see. Lowest is $630 before taxes and fees. And oh, by the way, you're in. This is NRG Stadium. This is where the Texans play. You would be in section 514, which I'm trying to find because it's very, very small. I think it's behind the stage. Where 514?
That means you can't see.
514. I can't even find it on the map. I see the 540s on the far opposite end zone. As 514 is in the corner behind the stage.
Why do you pay that much money when you're not even able to see the performer?
Yeah, 514. Again, Joel, sorry, I'm going to have to hide you here because I got to bring it up and I can only do it this way. 514 is back here. This is the stage and it's facing this way. 514 is here. $630 to go see a show and not be able to see the show. Are you kidding me? That's $630 before taxes and fees. With taxes and fees, $805 to not be able to see the show. God, people, just go on YouTube and listen to the album or watch a concert. Just don't be an idiot. $805. That's people's like housing payments. Jesus Christ, that's per ticket. Sorry,
you get yourself a freaking arcade machine at home for that much.
You could pay my car payment for 2.5 months for that. Come on, man. Do you know how many jerseys you can buy? 5, because I just bought the Sharks reverse retro, and it maps out to be about 5 of those. So, oh my God. Okay, now I got to do the other end of it where I see, because now I'm curious. Same concert. What does it cost to be up front? Joel, take a guess.
$500,000
per ticket to be in section A.
No, hang on. Let me do a Dr. Evil. $1 billion.
With taxes and fees per ticket to be in the front row, or sorry, the front section, not the front row. The lowest is $3,751. The highest is $42.35 per ticket.
That's when we
watch a skinny blonde girl sing music that you can listen to for basically free.
Definitely need the squeaky toy called "Are You Kidding Me?"
Yeah. So if you have $4,000 to spend per ticket for Taylor Swift, we apologize for offending you, and we could use a donation because you apparently have funds you don't freaking need. And we will take donations via PayPal.
$4,000, or that's a shopping trip without prices are these days.
That's absurd. Oh my God. I know it's not the artist's fault, but come on, man. Come on, Taylor Swift. Get your crap together. All right, now that we've gone down that rabbit hole, that is our time for the Sports Shuffle. I am
just shake it off, right? Yeah.
Shake it off. I am Flying Ryan Gokers, who will not be going to see Taylor Swift in my lifetime, along with
Tampa Motor Mouth, Joel Verolin, ditto. And what is the schedule? Since I know we were talking about it.
yes, of course. Next week is the Thanksgiving holiday
Gobble,
for
gobble.
those of us in the United States. So we're gonna do all of our show on Wednesday. That's gonna be the recaps. We'll probably cut those a little short, and then do our picks on Wednesday. And that'll be the only show next week. So if you want to watch us talk football, it will be Wednesday. It will be a longer than average episode. Not that this hour and a half thing we've just done is not longer than average, but we got on Taylor Swift, and you know how that just has to go off to the right or the left, and we got a blank space for your name for next week, so you can come and watch us there. But anyways, we're gonna end this one before we start doing more.
Can't go off the rails any more than we already have.
Yeah. So with that, I am Flying Ryan Gokers, along with, as always,
Tampa Motor Mouth, Joel Verolin.
And with that, we go. And don't pay to see Taylor Swift.